Greetings, everybody. This is Aaron the Pedantic. So I survived the weekend, and it looks like you did too. Of course, it was Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to any mothers in the audience, which, according to my YouTube analytics, is very unlikely. Unfortunately, I'm not trying to make this a sausage fest. It's just happening naturally. So, and I am okay with that, as long as I'm not scaring people away. But so there was that, and then I also had work, and I also had my second COVID shot. So there's a lot of stuff involved, but I survived. So here I am, less content, of course, than usual, but I've got a few things I want to talk about today. So I'm going to make a few videos rapid fire, really quickly, and then you will, we'll get to see what happens. So the first one I wanted to talk about today is DCC. So there are a lot of things that people say about DCC that I don't agree with, and this is one of them. They say that DCC is not meant for, or not good for, campaign play, and I am going to firmly disagree with that. So whenever you talk about DCC campaigns, there are usually two that come to mind. So the first one that people often talk about, and this is just kind of because of the fact that DCC is well known for its modules, is a running of just module. And so, like, not really any downtime. This is really the preferred method of road crew games. It works very well. That's just what they do. It's great for pickup games. You know, you don't know who's going to be here from this time to the next, so we're just going to run this module. We're going to run this module. We're going to run this module, and we're not really going to focus on the outside world because that shit doesn't matter. And we're just going to have a good time, doing the modules. The modules are very well written, like I said. I would be wary of one thing, though, and that is that a lot of them, or at least a fair bit of them that I've read and actually played, I've actually had two that I ran in a row that I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't notice that would be a problem. And that is that they tend to sometimes have extremely constricting pathways and resolutions in such a way that there is really nothing that the players can do that's that original, nothing creative. It just kind of forces them to go a very specific way. It's very unfortunate. It is just the way some of them are written. Watch out for it if you plan on doing this, and try and, be a little bit more open-ended. Maybe try and create a world around all of this. There's people that have done that. If you look at Judge James on Twitter, he has put some of his map. He put a map down that has all the adventure locations that he has ran into from DCC into a world perspective. It's pretty cool. Check it out. He's not the only one to have done it. A lot of people want to do that. It's just something that they do, and something to consider. Me personally, I have run the more homebrewsy type, open-ended sandbox, that kind of thing, and I did it with Chalt. So I started them with the Temple of Krodimek, which is an adventure that is written in the Chalt book, and then from there, they're really there's some just kind of broad strokes on the rest of the world, and then there's a lot of detail on the Black Pyramid. So they never got to the Black Pyramid. They spent a lot of time in Agribah. So I had to do a lot of stuff on my own, and we played there for at least 7 months. The only reason that we stopped is because of the fact that we had one player that had to go off and do something for several months for work, and then another player right after that, who also had to do that. And that left us down to, I think, 2 or 3 players. 2 regular players, and then one that was kind of there sometimes, not always there. And because of that, we decided to put that on hiatus, and we would go do something else. So it wasn't a fault of the system, is what I'm trying to say. Now, there are also people that will say that, so the reasons that people say that it is not well suited for this kind of campaign play is because of the fact that the PCs get so powerful rather quickly. To this, I would like to say I, again, kind of disagree. So there are things that you need to consider. So first off, the player character in DCC at level 1 is probably more on par with maybe an OSE level 3. And I would say that you can add another 2 levels with that every single time they level up, probably. It's pretty intense. Maybe not every single time, because then you'd end up in, companion master territory. But What I'm trying to say, though, is that they are significantly more powerful than your average bear. And because of that, there are some ramifications that are going to take place. That being said, even with me using an accelerated leveling process over that 7-month period, and what I mean by that is I cut the XP requirements in half, and I often gave them a little bit more XP than I was supposed to. Even with that, they ended up being about level 6, in, like I said, about 7 months of play. Which is in DCC very powerful. That's 10th is an incredibly high level. 6th is very, very powerful. But still, there's still a lot of room for more, basically. So the reason that I sped everything up so fast at that point was because when I started it, we were just around when COVID was hitting. I was freaking out. I thought, I don't want to die in the middle of this campaign and them feel unsatisfied because they didn't get to experience DCC to its greatest lengths. And yes, people can make fun of me for being that concerned. I'm okay with that, whatever. I don't want to make this a whole thing about all that, though. I'm just giving you context for why I did that, because normally I don't do that. But so even with that, we still ended up being about level 6 around that time, and it took quite a while, and we had a great time, and we were going to keep playing too. So I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. I will tell you this though. Clerics can be a bit of an issue. There's something you really have to think about. If you are playing in a game where you are often having a lot of time in the city, or you're having maybe very short dungeon expeditions with, maybe like 5 to 6 room dungeons or something like that, you're just not going to have the same kind of tension that you might otherwise because of the way clerics work. So what I mean by that is that the cleric can continue casting spells and healing people as much as they want. It's just that the more that they fail, the harder it is for them to succeed. And then eventually they get these really bad things happen called, it's basically you have to roll in disfavor. And whenever you roll on that, it can be pretty disastrous. It might be that you're unable to do anything but, obey everything everybody else tells you for a period of time, or it could be that you have to go off and get a recruit somebody before sunset, or before sunrise, or you have to go off on a holy mission. It's just it can be pretty substantial. But here's the thing: whenever they get a night's rest, it resets. And also if they sacrifice 50 gold pieces worth of whatever jewelry, whatever, then it will knock them down on the ladder back downward. It won't knock them back down to 1. 1 is like the default, where if you roll a nat 1, then you have to roll in disfavor. But basically it can kind of ruin the tension. So you may want to alter that if you are going to run a game that has a lot of urban stuff happening, or if you don't use a lot of deep dungeons. But if you're running, the way that we were talking about before, then it may be a little bit different. Same thing with spellburn. Spellburn can also be something that can have those kinds of ramifications, because they can kind of figuratively blow their wad by spending like a lot of their stat points and leaving themselves this deprived, de-energized husk, and then they can limp out of the dungeon, or out of whatever encounter they were in, and then rest for several days, assuming that you don't disrupt their rest with something. And then it's like nothing ever happened. So they get to do this big massive attack basically, and consequence free relatively. You do have to watch out for that. That's all I can say. DCC is perfectly playable in a campaign format. A lot of people have done it. If you look at RPG Pundit, he has done The Last Sun in DCC for years now. It's perfectly doable and it's very fun. So I highly recommend it. Don't be, turned off by people saying that you can't run campaigns in it, because it's just not true. So that is it for this video. I've got more to come.